Good morning, my loves, and a very warm welcome back to The Library is Open. So I hope you've brought your library cards, my darlings. Hope you're all doing well. I'm filming this on the first day of the projected heat wave in the UK. So temperatures are expected to reach 40 today. Could be a little while later when I actually post this, obviously. But I'm currently inside with a little coffee. As it's fairly early in the morning, early in the morning, well, relatively speaking, and we are now into week 3 of the Waterstones Deansgate Summer Reading Challenge that I've been doing. If you don't know what this is, or you haven't seen the previous vlogs, have a little look on my videos on my channel, and you can catch up with week 1, week 2. This is now week 3, so I've completed 2 weeks worth of prompts now. About to go into the third set of prompts on my little bingo card. But first, I think I should do a little wrap up of the books that I read for the previous set of prompts in week 2. So I'm going to try and be quicker about this because I know I ramble. So the first one I read for the prompt, a book you've been putting off, was Verity by Colleen Hoover. Quick précis, it follows a writer called Lowen Ashley who is quite reclusive and sort of doesn't put themselves out there, a little bit introverted, and they get hired to ghostwrite or co-write, as it were, the remaining 3 novels in a 7-book series from an author who was in an accident and is now paralysed. And so she ends up going to stay at the house where the author is kind of convalescing, if you will, with a nurse and the husband and so on and so forth. And there's very clearly a frisson going on between the two of them. But then some strange, peculiar things start to happen, and she starts to wonder if the author in question actually is paralysed or if something deeper is going on. Now, as I said last time, I avoided this because it was so big on TikTok, I think, and because I knew the author was famous for sort of romance, which I'm not really interested in per se as a genre. That's just me, nothing against it. But this one was interesting. This was a read in the day. It's more of a thriller. It's a kind of twisty thriller. There is a twist at the end. Obviously, I can't go too much into that. But it is very fast-paced. And although there are some kind of bits of reasonably descriptive sexual content, I mean, nothing gratuitous or anything like that. It is actually more about the story and the kind of mystery plotline that's going on. Is the twist at the end massive? Kind of. I mean, it's not the most shocking thriller twist I've ever read, but it is pretty good. It's consistent, and I think as a general rule the book is pretty well written, so I wouldn't mind at all picking up another Colleen Hoover thriller should she decide to come out with another one. So, hi Colleen, if you're watching. No, I'm joking. Second prompt was to read a book by an author of colour, and I picked Nikki May's 2022, it was 22, wasn't it? Yes, 2022 debut, Wahala, which translates to Trouble. And this follows 3 mixed-race women living in London in the present day, and what happens in their lives when a 4th woman who had known one of them previously kind of comes into their lives and disrupts in one form or another. This is really, really nice. I enjoyed this a lot. It moves quite palatially in some respects, and that's not a criticism. You get to spend a lot of time with some of the characters and so on and so forth, and really get to know their situations, all of which are interesting. The characters are well drawn, and there's quite a lot of viewpoints represented, and it does touch on, you know, some bigger themes around race and colorism and so on and so forth, but also about, you know, that search for what your identity is when it is potentially, you know, split between two different cultures and so on and so forth. So I found that really, really interesting. The twist at the end comes thick and fast. Let me tell you that. It's not a thrill. I don't think it's a thriller per se. I'm not sure what I would call it, to be honest. Just contemporary fiction with thriller elements. But I really, really enjoyed this. And, you know, I'm definitely happy to pick up Nikki May's next piece of writing. So, yeah, I would recommend, actually. And, again, this edition is just beautiful, isn't it? So, that was that. The third prompt was, I believe... I could be mixing up here in the order, but read a book in the garden. Done. Well, it's actually said outside, but I've interpreted that as garden. You know, so. The fourth prompt was to read a book with stars on the cover, and I went with Clubland, How the Working Men's Club Shaped Britain by Pete Brown. This is probably my top pick of this set of prompts. I absolutely love this. That was brilliant. Proper deep dive into the history of the working men's club movement, you know, its origins, where it started from, and how it's progressed through the years, how it launched the careers of several, well, more than several, very notable people in the public eye, and in a really kind of like matey way as well, but without being too relaxed. So, like, all the information is there, the social history, the cultural, you know, milestones and so on and so forth, but also it just feels like, and I think someone said this in one of the reviews, it feels like someone chatting with you in the pub, which is great. I really enjoyed this. What I particularly enjoyed was the stuff about class and about the definition of culture and how those environments shaped a class-based culture. And it made me think a lot about our work with the vegan queens. Sorry, my chin's bleeding. That's lovely, isn't it? Don't worry, it's literally just a shaving cut. I haven't been mauled. I'll just do that for your convenience. It really made me think a lot about our stuff with the vegan queens, and how, you know, drag has always been kind of tied in with working class culture, and how turns, you know, acts formed relationships with their audiences in these really specific environments. It's just really, really interesting. And you know, it's an easy read, it's very digestible, and it goes through kind of in quite a systematic way, but in bite-sized chunks. So you get all the information there, but in a way that feels digestible and manageable. So yeah, top pick of this set of prompts. Excuse me. One sec. And finally, the fifth prompt, was to read a book over 200 pages. And I read The Woman in the Library by Solari Gentile, who is an Aussie author, I believe. And Woman in the Library is about a woman, funnily enough, in the Boston Public Library, who she's a writer, and she's there with 3 other people, and they all hear a scream. And later, a dead body is discovered in the library. Basically, and it kind of bonds them together, and you, as they kind of try and find out what's going on. But at the same time, the woman who's writing the book is being written to by a fellow author, and his messages become increasingly questionable, let's say. So I really, really like this one. I haven't got a physical copy to show you because I read it as an ebook. But what I thought was great about this was that the twists... I mean, the twist at the end and the reveal isn't, you know, earth-shattering. We're not talking the murder of Roger Ackroyd here. But, like, it's so twisty and so... Oh, I think it's this. Oh, I think it's this. Oh, I think it's this. But it's written in such a nice, kind of easygoing way that... it feels compulsive, like you want to know what's going to happen next. And again, it's another really, really quick read. I don't know if that's just a thriller genre thing generally, or whether I was just really, really into this. But I really, really liked this one. I thought it did some interesting things with the format. And there's a Q&A in the back of the ebook edition with the author that I thought had some interesting points to make about mystery, thriller, as a genre, and also about the act of writing more generally. So there we go, that's my wrap up. Now let's have a look at the next set of prompts, shall we, for week 3 of the Summer Readathon. Okay, so let's look at this week's prompts. We're on the 3rd week now, so the 3rd column you can see there highlighted. The first one is a 2022 debut. The second one is a book that is under 200 pages. And the third one, it's very exciting, is a free space. So presumably one can have a free choice there. I mean, I can do what I like. I'm a free person. Fourth one is a book with girl in the title. Interesting. And finally, we have a book set in another country. That's interesting. Lots of stuff there to play with. So let's see what choices I'm going to make. And we're back in the room. A slight outfit change there, a refill of coffee, and ready to share the picks for those next set of prompts. So, without further ado, so a 2022 debut novel I've decided to go with, and reminding you that I'm going with things that are already on my TBR or that I own. So I'm trying not to buy any more books specifically for this challenge if I didn't want them anyway. I'm not saying I'm on a book buying ban, but what I am saying is that I need to cut down. So yes, 2020 debut I am going for. I'm not 100% sure of the pronunciation. I'm going to guess it's Tipolo Blue. It could be Tipolo Blue, I don't know. By James Carhill, which is blurbed by Stephen Fry, if you don't mind. And that's beautiful inside paper, isn't it? Look at that. And this is set in Cambridge in '94. Professor Don Lamb is a revered art historian at the height of his powers. However, his academic brilliance belies a deep inexperience of life and love. One day, a piece of contemporary art is installed on the lawn of his college, and Don becomes obsessed with it, his anger eventually erupting into a public blunder that results in his expulsion from Cambridge. He moves to London to take up a role at a museum where he befriends Ben, a young artist who draws him into the anarchic 90s British art scene and the nightlife of Soho. So I think that sounds quite good. It's had really, really good reviews. I know as well that I should be able to pronounce this word because it is the name of an artist, but I can't, and that's just life. So if you do know the correct pronunciation, let me know in the comments. Or if I was right, then don't. So that's the first one. For a book under 200 pages, love this prompt. I'm going to go with, I talked about this in my most anticipated, and I have picked up a copy of it since. I'm going to go with Edouard Louis, A Woman's Battles and Transformations. I mentioned in that vlog as well, I met the author at an event at Waterstones years and years ago. He's really, really interesting. When he was reading from his first book, the English translation of The End of Eddie. And he's kind of, so he's a French writer who writes a lot about gender, culture, society and class, but it's all kind of memoir style taken from his own experience. But he's very succinct, as you can tell, because this book is tiny. I think this is, how many pages? I think it's 100 and, it's low anyway. Oh, it's 121, including like the end notes and stuff like that. And this is about his relationship with his mother. At the age of 45, his mother frees herself from oppression of being married and kind of put down and stuff like that, leaves her husband and her old life behind to start a new one in Paris. And the blurb goes on to say, it reckons with cruel systems that govern our lives, politics and power, and the possibility of escape. And I really love that idea about a mother rediscovering herself and a mother's child discovering her as a new person. I think that's really, really interesting. So I'm going to go with that one. Nice slim volume for the summer. 3, now this is interesting. So 3 was a free space, and I thought, shall I just skive off and do now? But no, I shan't. What I've decided to do instead of that is I'm going to be inspired by, I've just got this candle called Sakura Blossom Festival. Beautiful, really, really nice, which is based on the festival in Japan. And it just so happens that I have a book by a Japanese writer. Well, she was born in Tokyo, but now lives in Hamburg, I believe. But I just think this is beautiful. This is called Scattered All Over the Earth, which made me think of Blossom as well. So what I might do is try and burn the candle while I'm reading it, you know, for funs. And this, I'll blurb it very quickly for you. Oh, yes, sorry, the author, Yoko Tawada. It says, Japan has vanished and Hiruko thinks she might be the last Japanese person left. Travelling across Europe with a group of newfound friends, she pursues a mysterious man named Susanoo, who may be her last chance to once again hear the sounds of her native tongue. I just think that sounds really, really interesting. And, you know, there is something about, it smells great as well, by the way, the kind of aesthetic of the book that really appeals to me as like a kind of summery read. Might read this in the garden, you know, when the extreme heat has dissipated somewhat. Prompt 4 is a book with girl in the title, and I hope this is okay. I've gone with this. It's the plural, but whatever. I've gone with The Ophelia Girls, which I've had for a while, by Jane Healey, which is set in the summer again, so nice. One summer is kind of dual timeline. Summer 1973, 5 teenage girls obsessed with pre-Raphaelite paintings spend scorching days by the local river pretending to be tragic heroines. And then in summer 97, one of the girls, Ruth, returns to her childhood home with her family, where her 17-year-old daughter Maeve is finally free to live her life as she pleases following recovery from a serious illness. Mother and daughter have an uneasy relationship, and when an old family friend comes to stay, both are soon out of their depth. So I'm thinking, girls is fine, isn't it? As a plural, I think that's fine. So, yeah. And so for the final prompt, number 5, which is a book set in another country. Full disclosure, I did get this specifically for this vlog, even though I said I wouldn't. But I'm going to read it as audio book. So I think that should be exempt because I don't have like a huge TBR of audio. So I'm going to go with The Bread the Devil Need by Lisa Allen Agostini, which is set in city of Port of Spain, so Trinidad and Tobago, and is about a woman who witnesses a murder, as I understand it, due to domestic violence, and it makes her reconsider her own relationship with her abusive partner. So it feels like it could be quite heavy, but the cover is beautiful. I saw it in the shop a few days ago and I thought, oh, I'm interested in that. And what kind of pushed me over into wanting to listen to it as audiobook was the author is narrating it, and she has this beautiful Trinidadian, beautiful accent from Trinidad. Sorry, do you know when you can't quite figure out how to, not pluralize, but you know what I mean, the word. She's beautiful accent, and I thought I would love to listen to her read her own work, in her native accent. I think that would be beautiful. So, yeah, there we go. Those are those 5 prompts. So, I will report back in the next vlog. But in the meantime, do let me know if any of these have piqued your interest, or alternatively, what you might read for those prompts instead. I'm always really, really happy to read any of your either suggestions or just reflections. I just love, I love the conversation. So there we go. Week 3, let's do this. In the meantime, you put your library cards somewhere safe, and if it is still hot by the time you see this, but it might not be. But as a general rule for life, make sure you wear sunscreen, stay hydrated, take lots of breaks, and stay in the shade if you can. Okay? So look after yourselves, my lovely people, and I will see you very soon. Ta-ra!